The Israel-Palestine conflict is a deeply rooted and complex issue that has gripped the world's attention for decades. This intricate web of historical, political, and emotional factors has shaped the modern Middle East and impacted international relations on a global scale. It's a story of two peoples, both with strong ties to the same land, a land considered holy by three of the world's major religions. The conflict is steeped in history, dating back to the late 19th century when the Ottoman Empire controlled much of the Middle East, including the area now known as Israel and Palestine. The rise of nationalism, the establishment of borders, wars, and peace processes, each of these elements plays a vital role in this ongoing narrative. So strap in as we journey back in time to unravel the roots of this conflict, to better understand the present, and perhaps to gain some insight into the future. In this video, we'll explore the origins of the conflict in less than 10 minutes. To understand the conflict, we must go back in time. Our story begins in the late 19th century when Jewish immigration to Palestine, then part of the Ottoman Empire, began to increase. This was due, in part, to the rise of Zionism, a movement advocating for the establishment of a Jewish state in what was historically the land of Israel. At the same time, the indigenous Arab population, mainly Muslim but also Christian, were living in what they considered their ancestral homeland. Both groups, coexisting in the same geographical space, had deep historical and emotional ties to the land, setting the stage for a conflict that would span more than a century. In the early 20th century, the Ottoman Empire, which had controlled Palestine for about 400 years, disintegrated after World War I. The region came under the control of the British, who had promised to support the creation of a national home for the Jewish people in the Balfour Declaration of 1917. This promise, coupled with the continued Jewish immigration to Palestine, began to alter the demographic balance, increasing tensions between the Jewish immigrants and the Arab locals. During the same period, we witnessed the rise of Arab nationalism. The Arab locals who saw Palestine as their homeland began to resist both British colonial rule and Jewish immigration. Clashes between Jewish immigrants and Arab locals became increasingly common and violent. By the time World War II ended in 1945, the situation had become untenable. The horrors of the Holocaust led to a significant increase in Jewish immigration to Palestine, further exacerbating the conflict. The international community, under the newly formed United Nations, sought a solution to this growing crisis. Our story begins in the late 19th century, when Jewish immigration to Palestine, then part of the Ottoman Empire, began to increase. This historical context sets the stage for the subsequent events that have shaped the Israel-Palestine conflict as we know it today. Jewish and Arab nationalisms were on the rise, with both communities seeking self-determination in the same land. At the dawn of the 20th century, the world was witnessing a surge of nationalist movements, and the Middle East was no exception. The Jewish nationalist movement, known as Zionism, sought a homeland for Jews who faced persecution and pogroms in Europe. At the same time, Arab nationalism was gaining traction, ignited by a desire for political independence and cultural revival. A significant turning point came with the Balfour Declaration in 1917, when Britain expressed its support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine. This endorsement of Zionism sparked an increase in Jewish immigration to Palestine, further fueling tensions between the Jewish immigrants and the local Arab population. However, let's not forget the elephant in the room: the British Mandate for Palestine. After World War I, Britain took control of Palestine, then a part of the defeated Ottoman Empire. The Mandate, established by the League of Nations, entrusted Britain with the responsibility of establishing the Jewish national home as stated in the Balfour Declaration. The British, however, also made commitments to the Arab leaders who helped them during the war, promising them independence in return. This conflicting set of promises led to a deeply intricate political situation. As the Jewish population in Palestine grew, so did the aspirations for a Jewish state. Concurrently, the Arab population, alarmed by the rapid changes, began to assert their own national identity, leading to a rise in Arab nationalism. The British, caught in the middle, attempted to appease both sides but ended up satisfying neither. This period was marked by unrest, strikes, and violent confrontations, underscoring the growing divide between the Jewish and Arab communities. The stage was set for a conflict that would shape the region for decades to come. The British Mandate in Palestine after World War I added another layer of complexity. It not only planted the seeds of conflict, but also framed the context in which Jewish and Arab nationalisms would clash, setting the stage for the Israel-Palestine conflict we know today. In 1947, the United Nations proposed a partition plan. This plan, steeped in hope for peace, proposed a solution to the mounting tensions in Palestine. It suggested a clear divide, carving out separate territories for Jewish and Arab states from the land of Palestine. Jerusalem, due to its religious significance to both Jews and Arabs, was to be placed under international administration. The idea was to ensure both communities could coexist, each in their own homeland. However, the reception of this plan was far from unanimous. The Jewish community, despite some reservations, largely accepted the proposal. They saw in it a pathway to the long-sought Jewish homeland. On the other hand, Arab states and Palestinian leaders staunchly rejected this plan. They viewed it as an imposition, compromising their historical and political rights to the land. While Jews largely accepted the plan, Arab states rejected it. The rejection of the UN plan led to the 1948 Arab-Israeli War. This war marked a significant turning point in the Israel-Palestine conflict. As the British mandate over Palestine came to an end, the Jewish leadership declared the establishment of the State of Israel. This declaration was met with immediate opposition from the neighboring Arab states. The war, often referred to as the War of Independence by Israelis and Nakba, or the catastrophe by Palestinians, was a brutal and bloody affair. It was characterized by widespread irregular warfare, along with conventional battles. Both sides suffered heavy losses, but the war ended with a decisive Israeli victory. The armistice agreements of 1949 established the ceasefire lines between Israel and its neighbors, Egypt, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. These lines, also known as the Green Line, marked the boundaries of the nascent state of Israel and defined the geography of the conflict for the coming decades. However, the war resulted in an issue that has been one of the most contentious in the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Palestinian refugee crisis. During the war, around 700,000 Palestinians fled or were expelled from their homes. These individuals and their descendants, who now number in the millions, have since been living as refugees in neighboring Arab countries and in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. This displacement of Palestinians, their desire to return to their homes, and the opposition to this return by the Israeli state has been a source of ongoing tension. It's a complex issue, bound up in questions of justice, rights, and national identity, and it remains a formidable challenge to the peace process. The war created a massive Palestinian refugee crisis, with many Palestinians displaced from their homes. This issue remains a central point of contention. Today, the right of return for these refugees is one of the key issues that needs to be addressed in any final peace agreement between Israel and Palestine. As we delve deeper into the history of this conflict, we see that the threads of the past are tightly woven into the fabric of the present. The Six-Day War in 1967 saw Israel capture the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and other territories. This swift and decisive military victory expanded Israel's territorial boundaries, but it also marked the beginning of an occupation that continues to this day. The Israeli state took control of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, territories densely populated by Palestinians, further exacerbating the already tense situation. This new reality on the ground intensified the struggle for Palestinian self-determination and sparked a series of events that further entrenched the divide between Israelis and Palestinians. The occupation has been marked by periods of relative calm and outbursts of violence, with peace seeming like a distant prospect. Yet, despite the challenges, efforts have been made to bring about a peaceful resolution. The late 20th century saw several significant attempts to broker peace, most notably the Oslo Accords in the 90s and the Camp David Summit in the year 2000. These negotiations brought moments of hope, with both sides making concessions and inching closer to a two-state solution. However, the path to peace is fraught with obstacles. Despite the goodwill and concerted efforts of many, a comprehensive resolution that satisfies all parties remains elusive. The quest for peace is a living process, marked by progress and setbacks, hope and disappointment. Efforts for peace have been made over the years, including the Oslo Accords and the Camp David Summit, but a comprehensive resolution remains elusive. The Israel-Palestine conflict is a complex and deeply rooted issue with historical, political, and emotional dimensions. This intricate tangle of history and politics, of faith and land, of identities and nationalisms, has led us down a long road of strife and turmoil. We've journeyed through the rise of nationalism, the UN partition plan, the wars, the refugee crisis, and the ongoing peace process. Understanding its origins is just the first step in working towards a peaceful solution. We hope this video has shed some light on how this conflict started.